Okay, here we go again. Einstein relativity, correspondence principle. According to Wikipedia, the term correspondence principle is used in a more general sense to mean reduction of a new scientific theory to an earlier scientific theory in appropriate circumstances. This requires that the new theory explain all the phenomena under circumstances for which the preceding theory was known to be valid. The correspondence limit. The usual correspondence principle is the one connecting quantum mechanics to classical physics, and Wiki explains, in physics the correspondence principle states that the behaviour of systems described by the theory of quantum mechanics or by the old quantum theory reproduces classical physics in the limit of large quantum numbers. In other words, it says for large orbits and for large energies, quantum calculations must agree with classical calculations. The principle was formulated by Bohr in 1920, although he had previously made use of it as early as 1913 in developing his model of the atom. But this idea of the correspondence principle also extends to special relativity, where we have to consider how does special relativity connect to classical physics of Newton. And Wiki says Einstein's special relativity satisfies the correspondence principle because it reduces to classical mechanics, i.e. Newton mechanics, in the limit of velocity spore compared to the speed of light. Right, in previous videos I've pointed out that Einstein's 1905 paper on special relativity has been mistranslated, so I get a different correspondence principle than the one in the mistranslated theory. Putting aside that, and also putting aside the issue of problems with Lorentz transformations and Galilean transformations, and accepting them as dealt with in the mistranslated theory, I'm now going to point out the problems with the correspondence principle in the mistranslated theory. The mistranslated theory of special relativity is what is taught at university, putting aside the mistakes that I've seen with the translation of special relativity and just going by what is taught now. So I'm now going by information supplied to me by Professor Gift, and this is of course dealing with the theory which is taught students as special relativity. So according to Gift, Lorentz transformations of special relativity are tested, or can be tested, using the correspondence principle. On the basis of this principle, special relativity, which applies to high speed phenomena, must reduce to Galilean relativity of classical mechanics for speeds very much less than the speed of light. While most textbooks claim that the Lorentz transformations do reduce to the Galilean transformations for low speeds compared with the speed of light, we show that the Lorentz transformations actually do not, and therefore do not satisfy the correspondence principle. And now this is the Lorentz transformations according to Wikipedia. Hopefully you can see it. I'll give you a few minutes to have a look at it to familiarise yourself with it if you haven't seen it before. Moving on. Now this is the Galilean Transformations according to Wikipedia. I'll give you a few minutes to look at that. If I'm rushing through this too quickly, you need to pause and read it. So on to the next slide. So the reduction of Lorentz transformation to Galilean transformations, we first note that y dash equals y, z dash equals z. So we don't need to bother with that, because that's the same in both Lorentz and within Galilean. So what we need just to bother with is the Lorentz transformations shown there and the Galilean transformations shown there, connecting time and distance. So for x dash equal to gamma, which is all times x minus vt, it is easy when have low speed, because we just have gamma, which is that equation of the square root of all of the 1 minus v squared over c squared, and then that is inverted by being to the power minus 1, and that approximately equals to 1 for low speed. Then the equation x dash equal to gamma all times x minus vt is approximately equal to the Galilean transformation, which is x dash equal to x minus vt. So that was quite an easy one. Now we need to look at the time. And now this is the problem one with time. For the Lorentz transformation, you've got t dash is equal to gamma, and that's all times t minus vx divided by c squared. And for low speed, the gamma is equal to 1, approximately the same as previously, and that leaves you with t dash being approximately equal to t minus vx divided by c squared, and that doesn't equal the Galilean transformation for time, which is t dash is equal to t. So for low speeds, the Lorentz transformation does not equal the Galilean transformation. And I'm pointing out again, Lorentz transformations do not reduce to Galilean transformations at low speed. There is no correspondence principle for special relativity. And this is contrary to what is taught, because what is taught is that Lorentz transformations reduce to Galilean transformations at low speed, and that is false. So Giff then goes on to say the term Vx divided by c squared in the equation t minus Vx over c squared can be made arbitrarily large plus 4v by making distance x suitably large. Most authors ignore this problem and state without justification that the Lorentz transformations reduce to the Galilean transformations for v much smaller than c. And Gift then cites the textbooks which say this. Gift goes on to say, however, some authors do recognise this problem and try to resolve it by restricting x to being small, such that the term Vx divided by c squared can be eliminated for small v. Such authors he gives as being French, Skinner, Sartori, and so on. This approach is, however, artificial and illegitimate, since it does not correspond to the real world where the transformations are applied and where X can assume large values. So the people who are trying to resolve the problem don't. The first group of people, those textbooks, didn't recognise there was a problem and so didn't mention it. This second group of people recognise there is a problem and they try to resolve it, but they do it wrong. And Gift points out, Phibbs has indeed pointed out that because X can be made large, the term Vx divided by c squared is not necessarily spore for spore V. Therefore, contrary to the claims of the community of relativists, it seems that the Lorentz transformations of special relativity do not reduce to the Galilean transformations of classical mechanics in the limit of velocities that are small compared with the speed of light, and therefore appear not to satisfy the correspondence principle. So, what is being taught to physics students is wrong. They're being taught a theory that has failed the correspondence principle. They are not taught how special relativity connects to Newtonian classical physics. I will remind you what Wikipedia says about the correspondence principle. It says is used in a more general sense to mean the reduction of a new scientific theory to an earlier scientific theory in appropriate circumstances. This requires that the new theory explain all the phenomena under circumstances for which the preceding theory was known to be valid, the correspondence limit. And the physics, and now we go on to point out the physics establishment have taught a falsehood for how special relativity is connected to Newtonian classical physics, which means everything they have taught is invalid. Newtonian physics is known to work for certain circumstances, and how special relativity connects to that has been falsely stated, which means that everything they're telling you is now false. So I will now go back to what I've been saying about the Einstein 1905 paper. It was mistranslated into English, and the physics establishment have gone by that mistranslation. And then they create this falsehood of the correspondence principle. What they do is just layer mistakes on top of other mistakes, creating a massive pile of mistakes that they then teach students. Thank you. That's the end of this little talk. Cheers.